So first we will talk about how the shares actually work in HEX. How do you earn more HEX when you stake your HEX? And later on, we will also talk about how we made the simulation so then you can see and maybe even make one simulation for yourself.
Exactly. So let's start in how the shares work in HEX. Let's move on with our presentation. And we have three determining factors which determine the dynamic interest system of HEX. And those three are the staking ratio, the daily payout total, and the pool of total shares.
Before you go on, I want to say to you that we are showing to you right now, those are the mathematical facts about HEX. We do not have to take any assumption on that part.
So first of all, the staking ratio. Here we see if 1% of all the HEX in existence, if only 1% is staked, then the payout of the total staker class, the staker class is each and everybody who is actively staking their HEX. If only 1% of all the existing HEX would be staked, the whole staker class would earn 369% on average per year. And on the left side of this chart, as you can see here, if 100%, so each and every coin in the ecosystem would be in an active stake, then this average of the staker class would only be 3.69%. And as of right now, we are at 9.8 staking ratio and slightly increased from last year, and the staker class earns 37% per year as a total average. And here we need to clarify a little bit, because new people are thinking, okay, if I'm over the weighted average, then I'm earning the 37% from the get-go. It's not like that, because the 37% are the average of the whole staker class, meaning all those early people who are in it since like maybe 2 years or a little bit longer are in this total average included as well. So in order for you to get the 37%, you would need to stake long and then also wait a little bit, because over time the compounding interest starts to kick in. And for example, our first 5555 stakes did not start with 37%, and now they are already way over 50%. The top performers are actually over 60% right now already.
So the staking ratio here shows you that HEX is a dynamic system. You are your own bank, so you decide yourself how much interest you want to print in the future. If you stake for 1 year, you earn about 10%. If you stake for the average staking class of what we have right now, the 6 years, you earn about 37%. And if you stake for longer, of course, you earn a little bit more than that.
So then the second determining factor, the daily payout total. So Alan, what is the daily payout total?
So the daily payout total that you see here is paid out in HEX on a daily basis, but you cannot touch it right away. You can only have it when your stakes mature. And the the total inflation is 3.69%. So it only fluctuates because of emergency end stake penalties. And this is what you see here on that chart. In the launch phase, HEX hyperinflated. That's why you see it going up linearly. And then after the launch phase, the inflation of 3.69% is minted now. And the spikes, they are presenting the truth engine. Whenever somebody is untruthful to the code and has to pay a penalty, this penalty then will go to the staker class.
Yeah, and you also see, like, after the launch phase, it looks like a flat line over time. So over the years, when we will going to present you the power of T-shares, we will also see a slight increase here, because let's have a look on how the daily payout works, how it's getting calculated. And you take it first all ever minted HEX, and all ever minted HEX, you need to realize that's an increasing number because of the inflation of HEX. So all ever minted HEX times a fraction of the 3.69%, which is 0.009955%. And on this number, you add 50% of the penalties accrued in the last 24-hour section, and that gives you the daily payout total of the day.
So click once so the people can see the calculation in a big screen. So, and maybe they can calculate it themselves if they wanted to. But now we will go on with the next slide.
Sure, and the next one is the third determining factor, the total shares. So let's have a look on the total share pool. Generally speaking, about shares, we have two functions here. We have the longer pays better function and we have the bigger pays better function. With the longer pays better function, you can get up to 3x your T shares for staking for the longest amount of time, so 10 years or longer. And for the bigger pays better function, you could increase your T shares by up to 10%. We have the share price, which is only going up, and this is also a great innovation of the HEX system, and it also takes care that nobody can cheat the system.
So what you see here on that chart is the total amount of T shares in existence. The black chart here was our chart from last year. And like Maddie said already, we said that the T share price will go up in short term, but then after it reaches a top, it will go down from there on. And this is what really, really happened. But now we made this chart, updated this chart a little bit, and now it looks like it's only going down. But in fact, it actually did have a top like 1 month ago.
Yeah, and that is because we have only the data point of the 31st of 2020 and the data point of the 31st of 2021. And our prediction was correct, but we were like too long of our time frame. So what happened here in the short term after having our keynote last year, it went up slightly, not that much as we predicted, and from there it went down already to a level lower than where we started a year ago.
So shares are created when HEX being staked, then more stakes are created, right? And when are stakes burned? Stakes are burned when HEX shares are burned when stakes are coming due and people are end staking them. So this chart here right now is only the data point of 2 years. In the next slides, you will see the T-share pool, how it will evolve in the next 15 years. But in order to do that, of course, we had to make the assumptions.
So, and now let's go over to our assumptions, to the simulation of the future interest. So what we needed to assume here were basically two things, and the third thing could be calculated out of the first two. We needed to expect the share pool total of the next 15 years, and we needed to expect the daily payout total of the next 15 years as well. We already did that in the past, and we did that again, and from there we can calculate the expected daily payout per T-share. So let's have a look at the first thing here, the share pool.
So like we said, we had a rising share pool short term, then we had a top, and from there on the T-share pool only went down. So another significant thing is that everybody knows in the first year of HEX, the T-share price was really low. A lot of stakes have been done. And in 2030, we have a lot of stakes coming out. And this is why we assume that 2030, the T-share pool will go down even faster if those stakes will not be restakes. And overall, you can say the T-share pool will decrease slower if the staking ratio is increasing and or if the average waiting staking length is increasing. And this is what we saw as well. Both things became true. Last year, the staking ratio was 9.7. Today is 9.8. This is one reason why the T-share pool will decrease a little bit slower. And also something else what happened, the average staking length increased and increased. I think 1 year ago it was 4.8, then it was 5.8, and now I think it's up to 6 and something, right?
Yes, that's correct. So that's great. The Hexagon community is finding out more and more and more about the power of T-shares, and in order to push the weighted average staking lengths so far out, a lot of new coins needed to be staked to the 5555 mark. So well done, community. And here in 2030, we are not sure yet what will happen. We just know this massive wall of end staking, and if only a fraction of those stakes get restaked, and if there is some re-evaluation going on, that something gets sold to a lot of new people and so on, then we will see this more aggressive decline of the T-share total pool. So now let's have a look at the second thing, what we needed to assume, the expected daily payout. And here something really interesting happened, because last year, as you can see here in this black line, we just assumed that the daily payout total will increase by 3.69% year over year over the next 15 years, because we didn't have a data point of real inflation, because the year 2020 was mostly from the launch phase. So right now we have all the data from 2021, and the inflation in 2021 was nowhere near the 3.69%, because we have such a delayed inflation in HEX because of the staking mechanism, as people who are staking for 10 years or longer are getting 3x the T shares. They are absorbing the majority of the inflation, but they cannot access it, because only when your stake comes due, you get back your principal plus all the accrued interest. So what really happened was an effective inflation of 1.014% in 2021. And therefore, we have a new chart of the expected daily payout, which is also an exponential curve right now, because the inflation will need to hit the market. The total inflation is still the 3.69%, but as of the delay, it will take more and more time in order that this inflation will hit the market.
For me, this was probably one of the biggest learning when we made this Power of T-share presentation new and updated it. I did not recognize that the inflation in HEX was so low, and I'm really excited to see how the average waiting duration will behave in the next couple of years when we have pulse and we can stake totally different again.
Yeah, and our prediction for this year would be that the average staking lengths will increase even further. If the staking ratio is increasing further or not, it's hard to say, because it's really, really hard to really move that up, as so many HEX are just in dormant addresses sitting liquid and never moved.
People have to understand that it's a weighted average, and this is why there's so much financial energy needed in order to make this average staking length bigger and bigger, or longer and longer. And this is really such an important metric that we have in HEX.
And now for the third thing, the expected daily payout per T-share, we could just make a calculation. Would you like to explain that?
So what you see here is the share pool. We had to make some assumptions of that, and that's here all the data points that we have, and the daily payout total as well. How much HEX gets paid out to the staker class on a daily basis. And then with those two data, we were able to make a chart of the daily payout per T-share. And as you see here as well, we had the same chart from last year that was drawn in black, and now the new version is in orange. So it was not too far from our prediction from last year. So it's really good.
Two numbers to point out here at the 2020. This is the average payout per T-share for the entire year 2020, and here the 5.9 is the average daily payout for the entire year of 2021. And then from the years onwards, we just have the expected daily payout per T-share as of the 31st of the year. And yeah, that's our data points here.
So let's go on.
And now, after making all these assumptions, we are now able to compare different staking behaviors. And what we would like to show you is how much more beneficial it is to stake long from the get-go. What we are having here are two persons, person A and person B. Person B is, so both persons have 150,000 HEX, and they had that already a year ago when we made the first Power of T-shares on the last HEX online conference. So both persons with 150,000 HEX. Person B is just chilling and staking it for 15 years from the get-go. And person A, on the other hand, is taking the 150,000 hex and staking it only for 1 year. And then after 1 year, he is compounding, meaning the principal plus all the accrued interest he's putting for another year, and repeats that 15 times in a row. We need to do that in order to compare this staking behavior. We needed two people who are never selling any hex in order to be able to even convert it.
And now it's a good point to say, well, we had to take a lot of assumption, right? Two assumptions we had to take. And I want to say, even though if our assumptions may be not right, even though they were really, really close to right last year, right? This point that we are making here, the two different staking behaviors, this will still be true, even if our assumptions are not 100% quite right.
Yeah, because if our assumptions are like lower, or the total share pool might be higher, the payout per T share might be higher or lower, it doesn't really matter in this case, because we are comparing those two staking behaviors. And if, for example, this daily payout per T share gets lower, then it would go lower for both persons at the same time. So the difference, the outcome, the difference between the two, the distance between the two will still be the same and will still be valid. First thing.
So what we see here is the T-shares that every person gets, right? The T-shares from 2021 came from go.hex.com, and person A has 10.8 T-shares from the get-go, but after that it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because the T-share price is only going up.
Yeah,
and for person B, it is only 27.5% T-shares working for him from the first day on until the next 15 years.
So here at person A, last year, we assumed that even with his compounding restaking, he will lose about 5% each and every year against the T-share rate, because 150,000 hex is not like a whale account, and as a whale, you can get up to 10% bigger pays better bonus. So somewhere in this range, the user person A needs to have a decline in his T-shares, even if he restakes everything for another year. And here the first two data points, they are like the real data points, because he was staking on the 31st of December of 2020. So we have here like the first of each and every year, the 1st of January of each and every year. At first, he had the 10.8. That's like a number from go.hex.com. And now, by restaking it with the accrued interest, so with the actual accrued interest, restaking it for another year, he would only get back 10.4 T-share, which is a decrease of about 6%. And this decrease, we just put it linear. It could also happen that this increase is a bigger increase year over year, a bigger decrease year over year over year. If that's the case, which we will find out over the years, then the difference between person A and B is even bigger.
So I want to summarize the 6% you are seeing here right now. Last year, we assumed 5% T-shares decrease for person A. Now, Patrick, you found out it rather be 6%, and you already made a prediction in the future. It might be higher than that even, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
So then next chart, the interest for person A compared to person B. Here we calculated all the accrued interest for both persons.
Well, this shows the compounding effect. It's only the interest that we show here, not the principal. And what you see here is the accrued interest after 15 years for both persons, for person A and for person B. What you see is that person A, after 15 years of compounding their hex, will have about 620,000 hex, and person B will end up with 2,860,000 hex about.
So a huge difference. So let's have a look how that looks like in a chart perspective. And here we see the chart perspective of the interest. I would like that you concentrate here at the beginning at first, because we see that from the get-go, the person B, who is just chilling and staking for 15 years, is from the first day outperforming person B, person A by a lot, because who he here he is only staked for 1 year, and he is getting the best T-shares with the best bonus from the get-go. And if we go a little closer here on the 2030 mark, so on the 10-year mark, he who staked long from the get-go would already have outperformed the overall gains of the short term of the yearly compounder. And I also would like you to concentrate here what happens in the last 5 years, because this is actually one of our biggest learnings here at the Power of T-shares.
Patrick, is it correct to say of me that from the first year on, person B earned 3 times much as interest as person A? Because the bigger pays better bonus is 3 times as much?
Not exactly 3 times as much, because for the yearly stake, he also got 20% of staking boni, of longer pays better boni, but it is like 2.5 times.
2.5 times. All right.
And here, just to put it into perspective, in the end, our person A ends up with a 5x on his money, on his HEX, sorry, not on his money, a 5x on his HEX, the return of investment. But he never sold a single HEX and compounded year after year after year. And now the chill out staker for 15 years made about 20x return of investment on his money. And as you can see, so right here at the 10-year mark, also the person B, the long-time staker, is only kind of at a 5x. So in the last 5 years, he makes like the majority of all the accrued interest. And only by chilling 5 more years in the pool, you can get a lot more.
So what are the conclusions of our presentations? The power of T-shares is so tremendous that I think everybody should have a 15-year stake at least.
So, as Albert Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And again, just compare a 10-year stake to a 15-year stake. Because if person B would have done a 10-year stake, he would have gotten the same amount of T-shares as in our example. But here, where the error is, here this person, the 10-year staker, would need to end stake and then restake with a way higher T-share rate. And as you see at the person A, the 10-year staker would lose even if he puts the same amount of money plus the same amount of HEX plus all the accrued interest again for another 10 year. He would still get less shares than he had here from the get-go. And by only increasing your time for 50% more, because here you have 10 years and here it's only 5 years more, only by increasing your time 50% more, you can increase your accrued interest by 4x more, by 300% more.
So what were the biggest learnings of our presentations here? Well, first, the delayed inflation in HEX, which was only 1% last year, a little bit over 1%, which we assumed it will be way higher. But this is what we learned from that. And then, of course, to really make a 15-year stake, because the compounding effect really kicks in after those 10 years.
Yeah, so also at all of our workshops, we are going through a staking ladder, like your personal staking ladder. And it's always, when it comes to a staking ladder, it's always your personal choice, because each and everybody of us has different circumstances, a different environment, a different state in his life. So it's really a personal thing. But two ideas, yeah, it's not a financial advice, it's only an idea what we would like to give the people when it comes to a staking ladder. No matter your age, still make a 5-5-5-5 stake, because you don't need to put the equal amount of principal in each and every stake. So even if you're like 80 years old, you can still make a 5-5-5-5 stake and just put the amount of money. You can still sleep well in the night, and there you already know that either you will have a blast in 15 years or somebody you somebody from your family. And then the more flexible approach, of course, we also know nobody people tend to don't want to put all the money for the 5555 days, even if when you ask the hex code, that's the most beneficial thing what you can do. But therefore we have those personal staking letters in order to get us a little bit more flexibility. And what you can do with a staking ladder, you can create a ladder of perpetual passive income where you have it laddered first, and when your first stake ends, you just take what you need and put the rest on the end of the ladder, and therefore creating a ever printing money machine.
As we have Albert Einstein here talking about the compounding interest, I just want to point out for the last time, what does the compounding interest, how does it work in HEX? Well, first we have the T-share pool that is only going down because the T-share price is going up. It will take more and more financial energy in the future to keep up that high amount of T-share pool in existence.
This still fluctuates, but generally speaking, in the long term, it will go down. Yeah,
this was the first part, the T-share pool going down, and the second part is the daily payout going up, because the daily payout is calculated by all ever minted HEX in existence, and this number will only go up. So because we have those two charts running against each other, the T-share pool that is going down, the daily payout that is going up, and this is why we have this compounding effect in HEX.
Yeah, and the longer you stay in the pool with your T-shares, assuming you made like a 5555 stake, in the beginning you have like a little bit of the total pie of the payout. But over time, as people are exiting the pool and less T-shares are entering the pool, your piece of the same pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and there is the compounding effect in HEX is hidden.
But there is a little catch here. You only get the compounding effect if you stake early, because if you stake later, let's say you wait 5 years, you will not get as many T-shares anymore, and the daily payout then, which will be so high in the future, will not be fully paid out to you, just a fraction of that. So make your stakes early as you can.
And still, even if you want to stake in 5 years for 5555, it will still give you 3x the amount of bonus shares, and it will still at the time be the best performing stake what you can possibly make.